Shalom, my friends. Welcome to this week's newscast. Starting off with wars and rumors of wars. Hamas fired more rockets into Israel this past Sunday, October 5th, for the first time in 3.5 weeks, while at the same time, fierce fighting broke out when ISIS and the Nusra Front attacked Hezbollah in Lebanon. Syria and Turkey. Kurdish fighters backed by the U.S.-led coalition airstrikes were locked in fierce fighting on Wednesday, October 1st, to prevent the key Syrian border town of Kobani from falling into the hands of the IS militants. And Turkey deployed 35 armored vehicles, including at least a dozen tanks, to the border of Syria as the IS closed in on Kobani, raining shells from 2 directions. At least 2 mortar rounds landed on the Turkish side of the border, but at the time, it was unclear whether Turkey would intervene to prevent the capture of the city, which was under heavy bombardment. But then, on Thursday, October 2nd, Turkey's parliament voted in favor of launching military operations across the border in Syria and Iraq to combat the IS. More than 160,000 Syrian refugees, with many more waiting to cross over, have entered Turkey in the past week as the Islamic State pushed toward the city of Kobani. Iraq. Islamic State militants have taken control of key cities in Iraq's western province of Anbar and have begun to besiege one of the country's largest military bases in a week-long offensive that's brought them within artillery range of Baghdad. For the first time this year, the Islamic State is reported to have become a major presence in Abu Ghraib, the last Anbar town on the outskirts of the capital. On Monday, September 29th, ISIS jihadist fighters launched an attack on 2 fronts, some 40 kilometers west of Baghdad in Amriyat al-Fallujah. Clashes lasted 5 hours, but Iraqi pro-government forces repelled the offensive. Then, on Tuesday, September 30th, Kurdish Peshmerga troops launched offensives against the Islamic State on 3 fronts in northern Iraq, striking before dawn against a town on the Syrian border north of jihadist-controlled Mosul and south of the key oil hub Kirkuk. Then, just last Sunday, October 5th, the United States sent helicopters into combat against Islamic State targets west of Baghdad. This was the first time low-flying Army aircraft have been committed to fighting in an engagement that the Obama administration officials had promised would not include boots on the ground. Afghanistan. The Taliban launched a coordinated attack through a group of suicide bombers and militants on a government compound in the Zermatt district of the Paktia province on Monday, September 29th. For the first time, Russia, which is in the midst of a major strategic nuclear modernization, has more deployed nuclear warheads than the United States. Russia now has 1,643 nuclear warheads deployed on intercontinental ballistic missiles, submarine-launched ballistic missiles, and heavy bombers. The United States has 1,642. Libya. Libya is being racked by violence as the armed groups which helped topple Muammar Gaddafi in 2011 turned their guns on each other in a struggle to dominate politics and the country's vast oil resources. Ukraine. 7 Ukrainian soldiers were killed in an attack by Kremlin-backed insurgents attempting to take over the Donetsk airport on Sunday, September 28th. China. China's military has conducted the first flight test of a new variant of one of its road-mobile intercontinental ballistic missiles, a warning that Beijing is increasing its strategic strike capability against the United States. West Africa. Islamist terrorists have killed at least 9 United Nations peacekeepers in northeastern Mali. A Nigerian officer said the attack had been carried out by the Movement for Oneness and Jihad in West Africa, aka MUJAO, an al-Qaeda-linked militia behind numerous attacks in recent years. As it was in the days of Noah. Yesterday, the U.S. Supreme Court declined to take up the fervently contested issue of gay marriage, a surprise move that will allow gay men and women to marry in 5 states where same-sex weddings were previously banned. By rejecting appeals in cases involving Virginia, Oklahoma, Utah, Wisconsin, and Indiana, the court left intact lower court rulings that struck down the bans in those states. Further, other states under the jurisdiction of appeals courts that struck down the bans will also be affected, meaning the number of states with approved gay marriage is likely to very quickly jump from 19 to 30. 2 all-female colleges in the United States, the Oakland, California-based Mills College and Mount Holyoke College in South Hadley, Massachusetts, recently agreed to officially admit male transgendered students, that is, biological males who dress and act like women, making them the first 2 universities in America to put such policies in place. More all-female colleges are expected to follow suit. Earthquakes. In Japan's most deadly volcanic eruption in modern history, the top of Mount Ontake blew shortly before noon last Saturday, October 4th, just when many hikers had reached the summit and were having lunch in the autumn sunshine, enjoying clear views of the northern Alps. Fall is the mountain's busiest climbing season. Day after day, bad weather has hampered the search for survivors and bodies, which may now lie beneath 12 inches, that's 30 centimeters, or more of ash. And with a typhoon approaching early next week, the searchers might soon face the risk of ash-laden mudslides triggered by rain. The eruption of Mount Ontake has raised fears that more of Japan's 110 active volcanoes could spring into life with little or no warning. Experts are now admitting they simply do not know when and where the next eruption will occur. Pestilences. Russia has reported its first known cases in nearly 2 years of the highly pathogenic H5N1 bird flu virus discovered in villages of southern Russia, and Egypt has just announced the same, found to have infected a 3-month-old baby girl. The scale of the Ebola epidemic is devastating and growing every day, with 5 people infected every hour in Sierra Leone last week. If this current terrifying rate of infection continues, 10 people will be infected every hour with the deadly virus in the West African country by the end of this month. The reason the Ebola virus is spreading so quickly across West Africa is that the hospitals simply do not have the right tools or resources to care for existing patients, let alone stem the spread of the disease. And worse than that, for example, nurses, some not wearing gloves and others in street clothes, cluster together, stepping in pools of patients' bodily fluids, spreading the disease everywhere. the Ebola virus is going to get much worse unless work is quickly done on an international scale to create at least 500 million doses of an effective Ebola virus vaccine. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization said Wednesday, October 1st, that the manufacture, financing, and distribution of a large-scale Ebola vaccine is not possible until the middle of next year, at the earliest. Signs in the heavens. The first of 4 blood moons occurred last April, followed by a major surge in the Middle East wars. And another big event, the second blood moon, happens tomorrow morning. I expect we'll see yet another surge of wars and rumors of wars following that. And then the final 2 blood moons will occur next year, with the biggest punchline happening in the fall. Tomorrow morning, the moon will begin entering the outer fringes of Earth's shadow at 4:15 a.m. Eastern Time. That's 8:15 Greenwich Mean Time, and the 59-minute-long total eclipse phase will start 2 hours later at 6:25 a.m. Eastern, 10:25 Greenwich Mean Time. Observers throughout the Asia-Pacific region and the western portions of North and South America will have the best views. Europe and Africa, however, will be shut out of this event. On October 23rd, a partial solar eclipse will occur as the moon's shadow darkens much of Earth's surface. This event also favors sky watchers in Northwest America. Observers in Vancouver, for example, will see 66% of the sun's disk obscured by the moon. This solar eclipse will begin at 3:37 p.m. Eastern, 1937 Greenwich Mean Time, and will end at 7:51 p.m. Eastern, 2351 Greenwich, peaking at 5:44 p.m. Eastern in Canada's Nunavut territory, where sky watchers will see more than 80% of the solar disk blocked. Warning: never look directly at the sun during an eclipse with a telescope, binoculars, or your naked eye. Severe eye damage can result. Note, I'll be putting a link to erfministries.com at the end of this video, as well as beneath this video in the more info section, where you can check out my good friend Scottie's videos about the blood moons. No one covers this subject as well as Scottie does. One of the year's best meteor showers also occurs this month. The Orionids, which result when Earth plows through debris shed over the years by the famous Halley's Comet. This year, the Orionids peak overnight from October 21st through the 22nd. Stargazers under dark, clear skies can expect 20 or so meteors per hour after midnight. Viewers in the northern hemisphere should look toward the southeast horizon, while people south of the equator should gaze northeast to catch a glimpse of these shooting stars. Orionid meteors are known for their brightness and for their speed. These meteors are fast. They travel at about 148,000 miles per hour. That's 66 kilometers per second, falling into the Earth's atmosphere. Fast meteors can leave glowing trains, incandescent bits of debris in the wake of the meteor. Fast meteors can also sometimes become fireballs. Look for prolonged explosions of light when viewing the Orionid meteor shower. Skywatchers can also get good looks this month at several different planets. In early October, Mars and Saturn will be visible low in the southwestern sky in the evening, and Jupiter will be king of the pre-dawn hours throughout the month. And that's the news for this week, my friends. Thank you for your support. And until next week, Abba willing, I'll see you then. Shalom. I need more space than I consume. Enough is time alone with you, underneath the naked moon, sharing confidential moods and making chatter. Mockingbird nocturnal sings notations of eternal things, entering the quantum breeze, flying not for want of wings. He lights his gaze on you and me, simply because we matter.